and the stage quite separated by this time. You're not going to find plays being performed within churches here in 18th century England, nor are you going to find plays being plays on the professional stage with religious characters and religious themes. Rather, these are two very separate institutions, two bodies that actually do come to heads during the 18th century, arguing with each other over the public's mind. Now, this might be explained by some of the similarities that they both have. For the theater and the church are two very unique buildings here in Williamsburg, or in the other cities, capital cities and colonies. For both the theater and the church are buildings where we're going to find all walks of life, all present, all for the same purpose. Now, the church, for instance, Root Parish Church here in town, you're going to find everyone from the governor to slaves, all there, all for the purpose of worship and praise. At the theater here in town, we don't have a reconstructed theater yet, there by the Capitol, the theater stood during the 1770s, and that's where you can find all walks of life, perhaps everyone from the governor to slaves, all there for entertainment. Now, of course, both bodies, too, do want your money, so that might lead to some contention. But before we go into modern-day views of the church and stage, perhaps we should speak directly from the 18th century. We're very lucky to have numerous sources of writings. First, we're going to start with a sermon, very appropriately, a sermon that was written in England that addresses the topic of the stage. This sermon is titled Christian and Critical Remarks on a Droll or Interlude called The Miner. And as you listen to this minister's ideas about the stage, please welcome Mr. Morse here and keep an open ear for what this minister might be encoding secret messages about what he thinks of the theater.
It is not my design to enter into the lawfulness or unlawfulness of theatrical representation. It is sufficient for this purpose that the stage, unless under proper regulations, is a nuisance, a school for debauchery, blasphemy, and immorality, and as such an open violation of all laws, human and divine. I could sincerely wish that theaters all over the world did not come into the catalog of abominations, or that the theaters of our own country were an exception to the general rule. But I am sorry to say, so far from it, that I believe there is not a civilized people in the universe. At least I'm sure there is no Christian people to be found whose plays are so profane and so immoral as those of the English. Insomuch that except the truly pious Mr. Addison, there are scarce any poets who have left us a single tragedy or comedy fit for anything but to be represented in the orgies of Sybil or of a Venus, in which we are assured all kinds of debauchery and wantonness were practiced.
Strong words indeed. Well, I believe I told you there's no secret message in there. Plain as day. Well, that's not to say that everyone within the church thought that theater was an immoral place. And rather, we have a very different message, a very different sentiment coming from another minister who is writing not that theater was an evil place, but instead titled their sermon on true pleasure, cheerfulness, and happiness. So please welcome Mr. Merckx with this sermon from Philadelphia.
The first miracle that ever was performed by Christ was upon a marriage feast. Jollity and joy, we know, ever preside in those festivals, and he who condescended to work a miracle upon such an occasion cannot be justly imagined to have been a gloomy, melancholy spectator only of such joy and happiness. As to plays, they are permitted exhibitions amongst every society of Christians, the Roman Catholics of Paris, the Calvinists of The Hague, the Lutherans in Germany, the Kirk of Scotland, and the Church of England are proofs of the authenticity and veracity of my assertion. Our places of education almost universally perform them. Must Shakespeare, the immortal Shakespeare, be destroyed? Shall Moliere be burnt? Shall Plautus, Terence, Euripides, shall many famous ancients and deserving moderns be involved in the horrid conflagration? And posterity and our contemporaries restrain from endeavoring to shine in this amusing, this edifying manner. Edifying, aye, edifying. For vice and folly have never been received severer lashes than those that have been liberally inflicted upon them by dramatic writers.
decide whether you think the theater is a school for morality or whether the devil's shop where he hangs you upon the tenterhooks of temptation. But before we go too far into the program, we should define what we're talking about when we say the church and the stage, which church and which stage we're discussing. First, the church that we're going to be talking about in this program is the Church of England, because it's the state church of Great Britain, which at this time includes Virginia. It is a Protestant, though not puritanical body, with the king as its head. Now, there are other denominations at this celebrate this fact. And gentlemen, I expect louder applause from you, for you no longer have to wear petticoats upon stage, yes? Woo! Good. Well, we celebrated. And so, these actors and these actresses take the stage back in England. Oh, and you're welcome to draw near if you wish to come up forward. That's perfectly fine as well. We have these actors and actresses take the stage back in England, and now that we do have ladies upon stage, there's certainly a great advantage to be had of actresses upon stage, including, of course, the fact that now we're able to have the true battle of the sexes upon the stage. Many of these plays in the Restoration aren't quite gaudy, full of double dealings and intrigues going on behind people's backs. We've now pulled off from this, though, in this time of the 18th century. We now have reached very light social satire. And these plays are largely about things that you would see in your modern day of fashions and follies, news coming out from the far reaches of the world, and mocking these things upon the stage in satire. Now, of course, comedies are a great way to view what people think of the news and things coming out during the time, but tragedies are where we have morality certainly lying. In these tragedies, these are capturing the public's imagination, including tragedies of great heroes like Cato, written by Joseph Addison, about a Roman senator who fights for liberty, justice, the republic, and freedom. Very inspiring stuff. We also, too, have a play that hits perhaps close to home, the tragedy of George Barnwell. Now, George Barnwell is not a lord, he's not a king, he's not anyone of high birth, but rather he's an apprentice, like many of the apprentices that might be out in the audience. And George Barnwell, the sad young man, is involved in a relationship with a scheming woman. I should say, it's an 18th century audience, you don't have to be so quiet. Yes, an 18th century audience is loud and opinionated, I should say. So, I'll say it again, he's involved with a scheming woman. Yes. She tricks young men into buying her gifts to win her affection. Oh. I see some of the women approve of this matter. Now, she chooses the wrong mark in George begins to steal divider gifts.
Oh no.
He steals from his master.
Oh.
That's enough. He then kills his own uncle for money.
Oh.
Of course, in the end of this play, you might worry that some of the young men out in the audience might be trying to copy the actions here upon stage, but have no fear. George Lillo, the playwright, includes soliloquies, where George Barnwell, the character, turns out to be you, the audience, and warns you from repeating his actions here upon stage. We're going to let you hear George Barnwell's words as he is being carted off to the gallows at the end of the play. So please welcome Mr. Ernst as George Barnwell.
Be warned, ye youths who see my sad despair. Avoid lewd women, false as they are fair. By reason guided, honest joys pursue. The fair to honor and to virtue true. Just to herself will ne'er be false to you. By my example learn to shun my fate. How wretched is the man who is wise too late. Ere innocence and fame and life be lost, here purchase wisdom cheaply at my cost.
Now, of course, in these tragedies we have great moral lessons, but also in comedies you get to see some morality being reflected. And in this example, we're going to give you a scene about an apprentice. But more importantly, not just an apprentice, a scene about his concerned father. This is from Arthur Murphy's play The Apprentice, and here comes the father, Mr. Wingate. Mr. Wingate here is the father of a young man who's been an apprentice. This play very appropriately called The Apprentice, but not like another program you might not call The Apprentice. He is a very serious-minded man. He's a merchant, a very noble man. He's so serious-minded in fact. He's already apprenticed his young son to a doctor, Dr. Gargle, who I should be portraying. Now, he's very concerned, Mr. Wingate, because he's received news that his son has run off in the middle of the night.
Oh.
He does not want to become a doctor.
Oh.
And instead, he's gone and run off to pursue a very risky, dangerous, and some would say scandalous career of becoming an actor.
Oh.
Yes, been the actors making fun of ourselves here on stage. We're not alone, of course. And so he has received even worse news that his son has returned in the middle of the night, having lost all of his money.
Oh.
So that's where we begin in this opening scene of Arthur Murphy's The Apprentice. Feel free to cheer, applaud, or boo and hiss as you do see. Really side with Mr. Wingate or his son, and this Arthur Murphy's The Apprentice.
Well, friend Gargle, here's a fine state of affairs. Dick has turned right about.
He must be put under a proper regimen directly, sir. He arrived at my house within these last 10 minutes. Oh, but in such a trim. He's now below stairs. No, I thought it proper to leave him there till I had prepared you for his reception.
Oh, but death and fire. What could have put it to that boy's head to turn buffoon?
Why, nothing so easily accounted for. Why, when he ought to have been reading the dispensatory, there he was constantly reading over plays. And horses. And Shakespeare.
Oh, that blasted Shakespeare. You know, I hear the fellow was nothing but a deer stealer in Warwickshire. So listen, if they had just hanged him out of the way, he would not now be the ruin of honest men's children. Who was right, young Dick, to read Shakespeare? I never read Shakespeare. Wounds. I caught the young rascal myself reading that nonsensical play, the Hamlet. Where the prince is keeping company with strollers and vagabonds. A fine example, Mr. Gargle.
His disorders are the malignant kind. My daughter, I'm afraid, has taken the infection from him. Oh, bless my heart. She was as innocent as water gruel till he had spoiled her. Why, I caught her the other night in the very fact.
Circus, you don't say so. Caught her in the fact.
In the very fact of reading a playbook in bed.
Oh.
Oh, is that the fact you mean? That's bad enough.
Well, I have come to her, madam. I have confined her to her room and locked up all of her books.
Yeah.
Quite right. See here, friend Gargle, I'll never see the villain's face. Let him follow his nose and Fights the dragon. Oh.
Lenitives are properest at present.
Oh.
His habit requires gentle alternatives.
Oh.
Believe in my management. About 20 ounces of blood with a syphilitic tincture, I believe will do nicely.
But where is the scoundrel?
Dear sir, please, moderate your passions and don't use such harsh language.
Harsh language. Why, man, do you think I call him a scoundrel? I had not a proper regard for him. You don't hear me call a straight or a scoundrel.
Dear sir, he still may do very well. The boy has very good sentiment.
Sentiment. A faithful sentiment. Let him get married and never miss an opportunity. I never missed an opportunity. Got up at 5 in the morning, struck a light, made my own fire, worked my fingers' ends. This young vagabond of a fellow was going his own way. With all my heart would care I. Let him follow his nose, I say, let him follow his nose. That was ridiculous.
Aye, ridiculous indeed, sir. Why, for a long time past, he could not converse in the language of common sense. Ask him a trivial question, and he responds with some cramped answer out of one of his plays that are running about in his head. And so there's no understanding a word he says.
Ah, this is what comes of keeping company with wits. And be confound to him for wits. Wits, a fine thing indeed. It's the most beggarly, rascally, contemptible thing on earth.
And then, sir, I found that he also went 3 times a week to a spouting club.
A spouting club! What's a spouting club?
A meeting of apprentices and clerks and other giddy young men so intoxicated with plays. There they neglect all business, despite the advice of their friends, and think nothing but to become actors!
Oh no.
You don't say so. Ah, a spouting club. Wounds, I believe they're all mad.
Aye, mad indeed, sir. But madness is occasioned in a very extraordinary manner, with the spirits flowing in particular channels,
Ooh, so death, you're as mad as any of them.
and then continuing to run in the same ducts,
Ducks! Blast your ducks!
until the texture of the brain becomes disordered, and thus, by pressure on the nerves, your tonality is contracted.
Ooh, don't plague me so, man.
But I shall alter the morbid state of his juices, collect his blood, and produce the laudable child.
Oh, circus, Red Goggle, don't tease me so. Don't plague me with all physical nonsense.
No, sir,
I'll think of that. I'll think of that.
Bravo.
At this point, we're going to turn our attention, thank you, sir, turn our attention to an individual who had a great influence on both the religious and theatrical culture of England. His name was George Whitefield. Now, have you heard of George Whitefield before?
Yes.
Some have. Well, George Whitefield certainly did rise to celebrity later in life, but came from very humble beginnings. He was born in 1714 to a tavern owner in Gloucester, England. And there, raised in the tavern, he was exposed to all sorts of people, including strolling players. Now, as part of his education, he was sent off to school, where the schoolmaster had the students perform plays in order to improve their public speaking. Now, do you think there were any schoolgirls in these schools?
Yes.
No? Not, well, some say yes. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't commonly, and not in this case, certainly. And so the schoolmaster had to have some of the boys perform the girls' parts in the plays.
Mhm.
Well, this fell to Whitefield. And later in life, he writes his memoirs, where he recalls this about his earliest theatrical experience. My master, seeing how mine and my schoolfellow's vein ran, caused me to dress myself in girls' clothes, which I had often done to act a part before the corporation. The remembrance of this has often covered me in a confusion of face. Will do so even till the end of my life. So, Whitefield did not take to the stage, but he was made aware of a great talent for public speaking. One that his family noticed, encouraged him to take up preaching, and immediately he became a star, for his method wasn't that of a stodgy priest reading out a dusty text, but enthusiastic, often performed without notes to a large and crowded congregation. And even at that, he traveled from place to place to various congregations, gathering so many people that at times he had to speak outside the walls of the church, out in fields, which went against the doctrines of the Church of England. Now, he, even as a young man, gathering so much celebrity, came here to the colonies, and certainly caused quite a stir as he traveled up and down, even arriving here to Williamsburg. We're lucky to know that he spoke right here in town at Bruton Parish Church. We're lucky to know that this was his sermon 24, as he published them a little bit later. And we're also lucky to know he spoke this sermon on his 22nd birthday. So, even as a young man, creating quite a sensation. And so to give you an impression of this enthusiastic style of speaking and this type of oratory, I'm going to read you a very short bit, as the sermon went on for an hour, a very short bit of the Sermon 24, or named, What Think Ye of Christ? Come then, ye harlots, come ye publicans, come ye most abandoned of sinners, come and believe on Jesus Christ. Though the whole world despise you and cast you out, he will not disdain to take you up. Oh, amazing! Oh, infinitely condescending grace, even you he will not be ashamed to call his brethren. What would the damned spirits now in the prisons of hell give, if Christ was so freely offered to their souls? And why are we not lifting our eyes up in torments? What is this but an instance of God's free grace towards us and his goodwill towards mankind? Why does anyone here on this great multitude dare say that he does not deserve damnation? If not, why are we left and others taken away by death? What is this but a sign of God's free grace towards us? Oh, let there be joy in heaven over some of you here repenting today. Though we are in a field, I am persuaded that the blessed angels do hover about us now, and do long as the heart panteth after the waterworks to sing an anthem at your conversion. Oh, blessed be God! I hope their joy will be fulfilled. Now, an awful silence appears amongst us. I am persuaded that the words of the Lord hath enabled me to speak into your ears this day, have not altogether fallen to the ground. My attempt at this inimitable George Whitefield. Now, certainly, as he kept speaking, not only here in the colonies, but also back in England, he received quite a bit of attention from the actors, not only for his theatrical style of preaching, which, have any of you ever seen an enthusiastic preacher speak in this manner before?
Yes.
Well, you can imagine that the congregation here in Williamsburg had never seen the like before, and many other places. This was something very new indeed. These actors noticed this theatrical style. One actor, the best actor of his day by all accounts, David Garrick, said that he would be willing to give a fortune to be able to, like George Whitefield, to have that power of voice. But also he received some negative attention from the actors. For many of the actors thought that Whitefield was trying to ruin their business by arriving in these towns the same day that they were to perform on the stage. It's taking their audiences away, in effect. Not only that, but Whitefield also dedicated some of his sermons against the actors specifically, calling them the devil's children grinning at you upon the stage. Well, one actor was so taken with his fire and brimstone, he began to fight it with a fire of his own. His name was Samuel Foote, an English actor turned playwright, who in short loved to cause trouble. For he wrote plays, satires, made fun of people he believed had no sense of humor, including art critics, politicians, the French. Then again, everybody makes fun of the French in 18th century plays to begin with. But even he took the Methodists, these new traveling preachers, into account in this play called The Miner. Now, The Miner has a character, a traveling preacher, who never actually appears upon the stage, but everybody always talks about. And it's very obvious that he's talking specifically about Whitefield. First, because he accuses this traveling preacher of begging donations from these large congregations, thinking that Whitefield should earn his living in one place with one set of tithes, rather than traveling from place to place and getting money from everyone. Another thing, too, he believed that the people who attended Whitefield didn't do it for their piety, but rather for his celebrity. And lastly, Whitefield had a malady that was irresistible to his critics. He was cross-eyed, a result of a childhood illness. And when he was on the pulpit, it made it look like he were seized with divine fire. Rather, in this play, the character's name is Dr. Squintley. Now, in fairness, Samuel Foote also suffered an injury, though later in life. He had to have his leg amputated after he fell off a horse. And so Samuel Foote's name took even more significance as well. Before then, this play certainly caused quite a sensation, for not only did it attack the Methodist preachers, it also was rather bawdy. We're not going to give you an example of the play itself, but rather a very unique prologue to the play. A prologue is generally written in verse, in poetry, to welcome you to the theater. In this prologue, Samuel Foote, who is the playwright, he's also an actor later on in the play, and he's also the theater manager. Or I should say, the character he's acting later on in the play is also a woman's part. Don't have we didn't have the costume. But he takes the stage in the character of the theater manager, for Samuel Foote owns the theater this play debuts in, and he addresses the audience, giving you an argument and defense for his play. Please welcome Mr. Presley here as Samuel Foote.
We will laugh with propriety at an old beau, an outdated beauty, a military coward, or a gouty dancer. In short, whoever claims to be what he is not, or who strives to be what he cannot, is an object worthy the poet's pen. In your mirth, know what they view of those wandering, itinerant field orators, who, though it declared ours with common sense, have the mind to poison the principles, and at the same time pick the pockets of half our industrious fellow subjects. Have a care, you're on dangerous ground. Lude cum sapris, you're trifling with the sacred. Though I look upon it in a different manner, I see these gentlemen in the light of public performers like myself, and whether we exhibit it at Tottenham Court or at the Haymarket, our purpose is the same, and the place immaterial. Why, I beg leave to assert that ridicule is the only antidote against this pernicious poison. This is a madness that argument can never cure. What recourse have we then but to the comic muse? In truth, the archness and severity of her smile can address an evil that the laws cannot reach, or reason reclaim.
Caused quite a stir with this play, which ran for 30 nights there in London, when the average play in its opening year runs for 5 nights. So, certainly, breaking in the profits from this play, there was no legal action taken against him. However, there are many sermons written against Samuel Foote, including that first sermon we spoke to in this program. Now, George Whitefield also continues a long and prosperous career, continuing to preach, even making a second tour here to the colonies. Now, although he does not arrive in Williamsburg, we do find him in Philadelphia, where Alex McAfee, a man there in town, is writing a letter to his brother. And he writes about this very exciting theatrical season, now that Whitefield has just arrived to berate the actors. So listen to this letter about this perhaps dangerous theatrical season.
I believe I've never told you that we have got Whitefield among us. He preaches like a dragon, curses and blesses us all in a breath, and tells us he hopes to die in the pulpit. He abuses the players who in turn advertise to perform the minor. The parsons petitioned the governor against it, and the performance was dropped.
Level heads prevail there in Philadelphia, and no battle there upon the stage. Now, at this point in the program, I'd like to ask you, who do you think wins out in this long battle between the church and the stage during the 18th century? Stage or church? So, divided here. Very good. Well, perhaps I might ask you a question, or 2 questions. I might bring the light and answer. How many of you have ever seen a play performed within a church? Good. Some hands go up. Very good. How many of you have ever seen a play on the professional stage that had religious characters and religious stories? Yes. So the truth of the matter is, in the 19th century, both of these very quickly start becoming part of the American culture here, and a little bit later on, adopting back in England. And so the truth of the matter is, both of these, by the 19th century, end up working side by side once again. So at the end of this program, I'd like to end in the manner of an 18th century play with a bit of epilogue, a bit of verse to close out the evening. This epilogue is from Hugh Kelly's play, A Word to the Wise. And this little bit of it not only applies just to that play, but also to the situation of the church and stage. Modish divines at the church and in the city are in their pulpits humorous, gay, and witty. But they now change hands, the stage and pulpit teaching. Sermons are merely plays, and plays are merely preaching. A word to the wise, this pretty pertifizer. Well, if it were possible to make you wiser, for each man knows that the poet labors not to instruct him, but to instruct his neighbors.
Woo! Yeah!
If you wish to see more of the 18th century entertainments, not only do we have music programs and dancing and theater programs going on not only during the day, throughout the week, but also in the evenings, our 18th century play series, other evening programs going on about town. But also, too, if you wish to see more about the church, though it's not operated by Colonial Williamsburg, Group Parish Church shall be open until 5 o'clock today. And also at William Mary, the college building, not overrun with students today. The college building has the chapel and grammar school open to you as well. If you have any more questions, we'll carry about for a moment. But do have a wonderful rest of your day.